everyone. Welcome back. It's episode 3 of Horns Up, your weekly heavy metal conversation. I am your host, Dan Kaplan. With me, as always, is my good friend Corey Butterworth. Corey, how's it going?
Going well, going well. Welcome to another episode of No Mirror Tuesdays, my favorite day of the week.
No Mirror Tuesdays. It's actually Wednesday, but we'll disregard that.
Yeah, well, we used Tuesday last time, so I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, we'll make it work. Before we get into our metal stuff, it is a big week up your way in New Hampshire. Tell me about what's been going on in your world.
Yeah, dude, this is gonna be all about me episode, apparently. No, I just ran Boston Marathon on Monday. A nice little 26.2 mile jaunt from Hopkinton, Mass to Boston.
Say that again. 26.2 miles. 2 miles.
I don't drive that much in about a week. It was.
I don't know if I've run that much in my whole life.
It was by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. By far. I'm talking Tough Mudders. I'm talking, all these races, all this stuff I've done. This was by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. But for that, it was also the most rewarding. We're all aware of what happened last year and everything. It was just a really, really emotionally charged weekend, really. It was a lot harder than anybody expected. I mean, it pushed 80 in some places. When everybody was pretty much prepared for at most low 60s. So the heat definitely got to some people. You saw a lot of stretchers, a lot of people hitting up the medical tents, but, 36,000 strong, started the race, and I think most, at least 95% of them got through the finish line, so it was something else. Definitely something else.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
I bet.
It was nuts, but that was
well,
my
and then
Monday.
Yesterday, of course, was your 25th birthday, and that had to be the ultimate celebration of not having to run for a change.
Jesus, seriously, yeah, no, I celebrated my 25th birthday pretty much being horizontal 90% of the day, admiring all the goodies I acquired from the day before, but learning how to walk is always a good time, I guess.
Fun week all around. I can't compare, frankly, but not that I'm necessarily ashamed of that. Running a marathon and having your birthday back to back is a pretty damn cool week. So
it was. I gotta say, it was probably the best birthday weekend I could have fathomed. And I'll get into more details about everything that ensued over the weekend later. But we're talking Friday started with obviously the Behemoth show, which I'll touch on later. Saturday was Record Store Day, which I obviously, as always, took advantage of. Again, I'll touch on later. Sunday was down in Boston. Monday was a marathon. Tuesday was a day off from work to recover. So here I am. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome 5-day stretch.
Yeah. And here we are. So I think this episode is going to be all downhill from this conversation, but that's a tough act to follow. That's a tough act to follow. We'll do what we can.
We'll do plenty with some of the topics we have.
This is true. I guess starting off, do we want to get into our headlines for the week?
Yeah, we have to. There's some good ones out there.
There absolutely are. Leading off with a persona that we've covered quite extensively in both this podcast and our previous iteration, The Bracket. We have news from the Queensrÿche and Geoff Tate camps. As you may know, Queensrÿche has split into two bands. Legendary prog metal band split into two bands in late 2012 following a dispute with original lead singer Geoff Tate and the rest of the band. There were at one point 2 versions of Queensrÿche, both using the Queensrÿche name, released 2 albums last year, one called Frequency Unknown, the other titled simply Queensrÿche. And now they have settled after a long legal battle. There has been an announcement that Geoff Tate will henceforth be known as Geoff Tate, the voice of Queensrÿche, allowing his former band members to continue under the name Queensrÿche. I just used Queensrÿche about 15 times in a minute and a half. So if you're not following, I apologize. But long story short, Geoff Tate is going to be Geoff Tate, the voice of Queensrÿche. The other guys and their new singer, Todd LaTorre, are going to be Queensrÿche.
And I think my favorite thing about this whole ordeal is how Geoff Tate's website now has a link to the real Queensrÿche website.
There's a link to the actual other Queensrÿche page within Geoff Tate's website.
And the title,
said link,
the link,
said link is worded Queensrÿche without Geoff Tate.
Queensrÿche without Geoff Tate, found exclusively on the Geoff Tate, the Voice of Queensrÿche website.
What I want to know is why could this not have happened when we were doing our dipshit bracket? Because this is just so much fuel on that fire.
It's so funny because it's like the settlement made Geoff Tate admit how much of an idiot he is and made him admit how lame he is by advertising the band that he, thinks he still is on his own website. And what's funnier is the actual Queensrÿche website, queensrycheofficial.com, does not have a link for Geoff Tate, the Voice of Queensrÿche, on their website. So it's pretty much just like...
Why should they?
Exactly. So that's why I'm just so amused by this. It's just so entertaining. A smidge of pity for Geoff Tate, but only a smidge. I don't know.
What would they call it though? If Queensrÿche were to have a link to the Geoff Tate page, it'd be like other band with Geoff Tate.
Yeah.
There's also I did a little bit of digging into Geoff Tate's newly redesigned webpage, and apparently one of his band members now, the singer, the female singer rather, goes by the name Sass Jordan, which is this real life? Is that an actual person's name? Sass Jordan.
Wow.
Sasquatch? Sass Jordan? Sarsaparilla? This is just wonderful.
I'm so glad Geoff Tate exists. He just makes my heart all flutter. I don't know.
Yeah.
God.
It's really a shame he and Mike Portnoy couldn't have faced off in our dipshit bracket, because that just would have been a wonderful, just utterly irritating matchup to try and figure out.
I think Mike Portnoy's birthday was on 4/20. Happy birthday, Portnoy. Still don't respect you.
I don't think... See, that shouldn't be allowed. Mike Portnoy's not cool enough to have a birthday on 4/20. You do not deserve that birthday, sir.
You went from age 0 to age old and boring. And that's where we leave you.
Yeah. At any rate, Geoff Tate, the Voice of Queensrÿche, that is what we will know him as going forward. Our finalist and semi-finalist rather in the dipshit bracket now has some resolution for his performing name. Next item on our agenda for headlines. Interesting item from a band that we covered last week, Triptychon. Our previous edition, we covered the release of their amazing second album, Melana Kesmata. But this week, Tuesday came out with news from frontman Tom G. Fisher, aka Tom Warrior. Reportedly was really close to losing everything and topping himself during the recording of Melana Kesmata.
This is fascinating to me, and I was under the impression, I was under the understanding that he was going through some really dark times when he wrote this album, and it clearly comes through his music. That's blatantly obvious. But I wasn't aware how serious or how ongoing it was. It sounds like this is a battle he had been dealing with for a while. As he put it, the album itself, the reason it took the album so long to, finally be completed was not because he made it, second tier to personal problems. He said it was several items down the list of things that were important to him at the time, so he just didn't care. He didn't care. He said, well, he's 51 years old. He's been doing this for decades now.
33 years.
33 years, over 3 decades, and the album just wasn't high on the priority list. And I guess it was his girlfriend that eventually, over a long period of time, kind of talked him down from it, my understanding.
Yes. He said, quote, "The reason I am still here is because my girlfriend pleaded with me not to take my own life.
Yep.
All of that didn't happen in a single day. It took a long time for her to convince me to stick around. I had to come to terms with that, and I began to try and rebuild my life to some semblance of order. And part of that order is my existence as a musician. This is what gives me strength and pleasure in life."
Yep.
And it's worth noting that Melana Kesmata, of course, the translation approximates to, quote, deep depressions.
Yeah.
Both over the termination of Celtic Frost and how bitter that had become. And just in general, apparently it wasn't just Tom that was going through frustration as well. The rest of the band had their own issues, but they sorted through them together. and now here we are. Thankfully we have Tom G. Warrior for more metal, and we have one of the best albums of the year.
Yeah, definitely.
Thus far.
Couple interesting things that I kind of was thinking about regarding this article that I found kind of interesting. One, it was interesting how he put the album's release so low on his priority list, and it ended up being music and his role in music that kept him around. I found that really fascinating, how it almost kind of like came full circle. He says, let's see if I can find the actual quotes here. Finishing the album didn't become a secondary thing; it became the umpteenth thing in the line. It had no importance whatsoever. And then he basically just said that his role in music, as you had mentioned, kept him around. I just think it's really fascinating how low of a priority he gave music, and then how high of a priority it became. And secondly, I like his little call out, and I kind of gained a little bit of respect for him, how he didn't actually use any of this for selling the album. You know what I mean?
The Rihanna call out.
Exactly. It's great. Yeah. He's like, I'm not.
He said later in the same interview, people like Rihanna and these reality TV stars promote their work on personal tragedy, and I cringe when I see or read that. I think it would be very cheap for me to say, we had a hard time, buy our album. Which,
it's a very
good for you, Tom.
It's a very Tom G. Warrior thing to say. It's awesome. Yeah, definitely commendable.
It sounds like he's in a better frame of mind now, and obviously can comment on the state of things that we're seeing all over the place in the rest of the musical world. So,
that's a good sign.
Tom, you're not listening to this, but I will say it anyway. We're glad you're still here, and keep on doing your thing. Keep on keeping on.
Cheers to that.
Our next story is coming out of Ohio, an incident from over the weekend. So it's a little bit old at this point, but has occurred since our last recording. So fuck it, we're gonna cover it. Yep. It's coming out from Firefest, which is a 2-day festival in Ohio featuring quite a few bands that we don't like all that much.
Hardcore stuff.
Bands like Unearth, Winds of Plague, stuff like that. Those are really the only two that I'm terribly familiar with. But at any rate, some really fucked up shit went down at this thing. The second night, Saturday, April 19th, in Lakewood, which is actually Pearson's hometown. Our good friend Pearson Tremarchi from Syracuse, and from our heavy metal fraternity Alpha Sigma Satan, his hometown. The second and final night of Firefest in Lakewood, Ohio, was shut down after a massive brawl broke out, resulting in 4 non-fatal stabbings and 20 arrests. Witnesses on the scene reported shots being fired. Some of the brawlers are also said to have been wielding machetes and baseball bats. Dear Lord.
How does this happen at a show? Like, honestly, machetes and baseball bats? For one, thank God nobody was fatally injured here. We're talking shots being fired and stabbings.
And not all that far from, if I remember correctly, not all that far from the place where Dimebag Darrell was gunned.
Right. So, blame Ohio. Well, don't have to tell me twice to blame Ohio. But, yeah, it's messed up stuff. Weren't 2 of the individuals arrested for this brawl actually in some of the bands performing?
Hold on.
Premonitions of War. Members Michael Gayton and Danny Garcia among those arrested.
I just don't have. What can you say with something like this? It's sad to see, because I've never encountered any hostility or any, outside of the
mosh pits
craziness that you see in a mosh pit. It's very there's a sense of camaraderie in the metal scene.
Sense of camaraderie, sense of community. It's definitely a culture, and
metal fans generally are some of the nicest music fans I've ever met.
Yeah.
And for something like this to happen, it's a stain on an otherwise really welcoming, really wonderful scene, I'm sure, in Cleveland and in metal in general.
You want to be accepted in a group, go to a metal show. You'll see all kinds, all walks of life. The reason I go to shows is because they're so refreshing, and like you said, the camaraderie there is just unlike anything you'll really experience. And there's no place for this. This is like, it's not the most mainstream genre of music. People need to be more on the same page. Everybody needs to understand that they're all there for the same thing, to enjoy the same thing. I don't know. It's not like a sporting event where you got rival teams there. Ideally, everybody should be enjoying the same kind of music. It frustrates me.
It's a mess. And it's not going to do the genre any favors, among non-fans who are less than informed about music, about metal music, but that still will judge away anyway. You hate to see that.
Yeah.
Hope everyone affected is recovering okay, and hope that whoever is responsible gets what's coming to them. Hate to see it. Anyway, for our final headline on a bit of a lighter note, which we kind of need. Some funny news. It's not really a news story per se, but it was just funny. We had to include this. Coming out of the Lamb of God camp, a church in Salem, Virginia, puts together every year. Apparently, they put together an Easter drama in the amphitheater of a local park, and this year's was titled Lamb of God. And whoever was tasked with making the tickets, distributing the tickets, needed to come up with some sort of graphic design for the ticket. And in a bit of laziness or just obliviousness, settled on the logo for the Richmond, Virginia metal band
Lamb of God. Completely sarcastic. I really, really genuinely hope they did that on purpose as kind of a fuck you, or to gain some sense of hilarity out of it, because it's really funny. It reminds me of all the times where I had my Lamb of God hoodie in college, where I was constantly asked about where people can buy those CDs because they thought it was Christian rock or something. So I'm hoping it has some kind of, comparison to that, because I just find this story so funny.
Did you ever tell those people that the band used to be called Burn the Priest?
Yes, on the frequent.
Burn the Priest. In fact, they were banned from playing the Great Western Forum in LA because they were formerly known as Burn the Priest. Of course, the Forum is owned by a Christian organization. The church issued a statement. We understand there have been some unfriendly comments online because of a graphic we used on one of our invitation tickets that had not been properly vetted. That's one way to put it. Right. The graphic is on those tickets only and is not the official logo for the drama. We apologize for our mistake and for any confusion we may have caused. Now back to our true purpose, and that is lifting the name of Jesus Christ.
Oh, fuck you. Oh, fuck you.
Covering our asses. Jesus! Hey!
That sounds like Christianity in a nutshell. Yeah, I don't know. That's funny. That's great.
Anyway, that'll wrap it up that'll wrap up the headline section. Why don't we get into it's? We missed last week, but we got some concerts to talk about this week. Why don't we go into that?
Yeah.
Now you were at New England Metal and Hardcore Festival last week.
I actually went to it last week. Yes, that is correct.
Are you ashamed a little bit?
I am ashamed for at least 70% of what I witnessed that day.
But you did get some Behemoth out of it, so tell us about it.
I'm gonna start with the high points and work my way backwards here. It was day 2 of New England Metal and Hardcore Fest, or Dan, as you so eloquently put before, New England.
Pussies in Pregnancy.
Yes,
Fest.
Exactly. Behemoth headline this particular day. They went on around 10:45. They played well over an hour. Covered a lot. They covered a lot of stuff off, obviously, the Satanists, including Blow Your Trumpets, Gabriel, Or Pro Nobis, Lucifer, Pure Divinus, the Satanist, and the they closed
Father O Satan No Son.
Yeah, they closed with the Father O Satan No Son, which was awesome. But they also played stuff off of Demigod. They played stuff off of the Apostasy, Conquer All, Slave Shall Serve.
I see a couple tracks here from Evangelion.
Yep, A Fire in the Void, Alas the Lord is Upon Me. They played Chant for Eschaton 2000, which is probably my favorite Behemoth song. That was off of Satanica way back in the day. And they also played Christians to the Lions, which was awesome. So it was probably the best Behemoth setlist I could have envisioned. So I was pretty fired up that it actually, dealt with what I dealt with to see that. I mean, they put on a show unlike anything I've ever seen. Anytime they're within 100 miles of me, I'm going to see Behemoth. There's a reason they're my favorite band, and it's beyond their albums. Like their image, their performance, their energy is just unlike anything else. It really is a show. But anyway,
I got a sense of that. I mean, not from New England Metal and Hardcore, but the photos we were looking at from original Invisible Oranges from their show. I guess the next night in New York. I mean, just look straight up ferocious. Nurgle is just he seems like a ball of energy.
He's superhuman. Their shows just kind of give off like an atmosphere. It's not just like a sound or an image. It's like they just change the atmosphere of the venue. It really fucked with the deathcore fans that just didn't really know what was going on. So, which leads to my next point.
You're going to get into that a little bit more.
I'm going to get into this most of the show. I really, really, really hate deathcore. Okay, so Metal and Hardcore Fest should really just be called. They just leave the metal out of it. It really is just mostly hardcore and deathcore.
New England quote unquote metal fest.
Seriously. I did manage to skip. I did not see Emir. Although I did hear rumors that they were at this festival at one point or another. Missed that shit. Thank God.
Good.
But what I did sit through was Carnifex, Die Artist Murder, Acacia Strain, and Whitechapel, or as some, meaning me, would like to call them White Chapelle. All these bands sound exactly the same. All these bands.
I picture them doing the sassy little finger bob.
Yeah, exactly.
White Chapelle.
Or, as I wrote out the bill for this show. Shit, Behemoth.
Yes.
They all sound the same.
I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna cut in real quick. I know you said you didn't see a mirror. I kind of hope that everyone just left the room when they took the stage. I know that's not how it actually played out because deathcore fans just for whatever reason have a collective boner for a mirror.
Yep.
But could you imagine if like Frankie Palmieri, egomaniac that he is, walked out into an empty room? He'd probably just start crying right there.
No one remembers my birthday, guys.
And then he'd rant about it on Metal Sucks or whatever. No one remembers my birthday. No one remembers my show. I was hardcore, man.
Oh God. Yeah, no, he's
such an ass.
He's a clown. I am gonna get into my usual Amir rant later. This is not it, I promise.
But wait, there's more.
There's always more. No, but these bands are terrible. They're all deathcore. They all have the same fucking breakdowns, the same blast beats. They're boring. Their songs are so angsty and so generic sounding. I don't know how this genre got
They all attract the same shitty group of scene kids.
They do, and that's actually, we're going to get into like that in serious detail when I go over my horns down. Spoiler alert. But that's what I sat through to get to Behemoth. That is what I'm willing to do to see Behemoth. I will literally sit through over 2 hours of my least favorite genre of music, which is, yes, a subgenre of my favorite genre of music, to see Behemoth. And holy crap, it was hard. It was hard.
Dedication right there.
Whitechapel? Really?
You're putting your body through some trials this last week, dude. 2 hours of deathcore, a 26-mile run. Fuck, man. It's...
Age. What am I doing to myself?
Age.
Yeah, man. But no, but I give as always, I give Behemoth's performance a 10 out of 10 because they're just that good. I give the crowd for the Behemoth show like a 5 because while the ones that were there for Behemoth, I will say this, and again I'll get into this more detail later. About 25 to 30% of the crowd left after Whitechapel, who was the precursor to Behemoth. I loved it because that meant I was right fucking there as I belong by the stage, but it was really frustrating because none of these kids had any idea who this band was. And I'm sorry, metal didn't come into existence when Frankie Palmieri's balls dropped. It still hasn't happened yet.
Metal is still not in existence under that logic.
But no, it was pathetic. It really was. And, if you want to be into deathcore, if you want to say that death metal has an influence on deathcore, you may as well fucking understand some of the roots. And there's no better roots, of, like, extreme music, really, than what Behemoth has done since the early 90s through now. So it pissed me off. But again, Behemoth, perfect set list. They cover everything I wanted to hear. My favorite songs, my favorite band. I bought a scarf. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that was my concert for the weekend. New England Period and Pregnancy Fest featuring Behemoth.
Yeah. Well, I'm still going on upcoming concerts, but a week from when we get this podcast up and running, this episode up and running, I have one I've been looking forward to for a while. I'm going to see Rodrigo and Gabriela, who, yes, I understand they're not totally metal, but fuck it, they have a metal background. They covered Orion.
Yep.
And it's my podcast, so I'm going to include them.
Perfect.
Fuck the haters. Rodrigo and Gabriela, I've been trying to see them for years. They have a new album coming out on Tuesday, 9 Dead Alive. And they are playing here in New York City at the Beacon Theater, which is one of my favorite venues in the city. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's just this palatial space, and you see all kinds of classy music there. And I figure flamenco guitar is classy as you're going to get.
Pretty much.
So I'm looking forward to that. More relevantly to our current genre of focus, Kvelertak has added an extra New York City show a day before their upcoming stop with Mastodon and Gojira. Now they're the opening act on that tour. They're going to be playing at Terminal 5 on May 15th. They've added a show at one of my favorite metal bars in the city, St. Vitus, and it's going to be a headlining gig the night before, Wednesday the 14th. The Mastodon and Gojira show is already the third time I'll be seeing them in less than a year. Do I add a fourth?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously. It's not a question.
I've only seen two other artists in my whole life. I've only seen two other artists at least 4 times. One of them is Devin Townsend. The other is Rava Riot, who different world altogether. I'm very tempted to go to this show. My only reservation is it's a Wednesday night and it's in Greenpoint, and there is no easy way to get to Greenpoint.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I have to take the least reliable subway line to get there. I'm probably gonna just say fuck it and end up going. But
hey, that's what I did Friday. It was worth it. So I say full speed ahead.
Yeah, there you go.
Metal.
And Kvelertak, I mean, I know I've talked about this loads of times before. Kvelertak is just one of the better live bands you'll see. They just have so much energy. Every show of theirs is just like a fucking party, especially in a smaller venue like this, and in a show in which they'll be headlining. They're just gonna go balls deep in this stuff. So I think it's gonna happen.
Nice. I gotta seriously go on like a CD binge and just stock up on their stuff because I am still not familiarized enough. But God, every week, Dan, all I hear is how awesome Kvelertak is. I'm not getting off my ass yet. It's about time.
When you see them, you'll be indoctrinated. You'll understand.
Should this be the type of thing where I just wait until I see them live and then get into it, or should I try to familiarize first?
That's a tough call.
Right?
I knew enough of their songs. I knew enough of their songs before my first show because I had bought my ear and I had listened to my ear and I had basically worn out the CD.
Yep.
And then only like a day or two before I bought their first album.
Gotcha.
But it's so catchy. I mean, these songs are just total earworms that they'll stick in your head. They'll find a way you'll find a way, even if you only get it like a day or two before the show, it'll stick with you. So
fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's my concert slate coming up, or at least part of it. But yeah, anyway, should we move into some new releases for the week?
I think so. Not a ton of bigger groups or bigger artists that we are familiar with, but definitely some cool stuff that came out this week.
Yeah, starting off with one from a Seattle-based kind of supergroup of sorts called Dust Moth. Put out their debut EP Dragon Mouth this week. And I really like the hell out of this thing. It's very like reverb heavy and there's all kinds of cool sonic exploration going on there.
I agree. Honestly, this stuff is really cool. Like I said, it kind of, upon the first time through, it reminded me of like a love child between Anathema and Fen. which I'm all about. I really enjoyed it. This was just an EP, wasn't it?
It was only 6 songs, one of which is the 1 minute introduction.
Right.
But yeah, it's really nifty. It's got like kind of a Deftones vibe at times. There's strong elements of shoegaze, even some gothy type stuff.
Oh, it's definitely haunting at times.
And the singer is just, I mean, she can belt. Her voice over top of it. It's a chick singer. Her name's Irene Barber. She kind of reminds me of another singer from another record I've been spinning quite a bit this year. Spinning? That's not a thing anymore. I don't know why I said spinning. A record I've been listening to a lot this year from Dum Dum Girls. Just in almost an ethereal vocal presence over top of the heavy backdrop. It's really cool. The song Cusp is one of the better ones I've heard this year.
Yep.
Again, the album is called Dragon Mouth. The band is Dust Moth. Highly recommended. It's on Spotify.
You can stream the whole thing. It's very readily available.
They're cool people. I tweeted at them to show my appreciation for the album this morning, and they tweeted back at me. So you guys win in my book. Yay.
Because of Fangirl.
But yeah. What can I say? Another one we had coming out this week. Not an album, but a new single from Machine Head.
Yes.
Killers and Kings. I believe it was just a demo version, but it still was pretty well produced and gave nice 4.5 minute slab of pretty much everything you want out of Machine Head. This thing was ferocious.
It was Machine Head. It really was. If this is just a demo, I'm really curious as to what the final production sounds like. I'm really excited about a new album because, like I was recently made aware, recently realized, Unto the Locust came out 3 years ago, which makes me think, how long ago did The Blackening come out? Because that's an awesome album.
Blackening is,
and I'm still on it.
The Blackening is 7 this year.
I know, and I'm still on that album too, which is just absurd to me. I don't know. Machine Head's pretty cool.
Possible retrospective topic coming up.
Could be.
Maybe.
Could be.
I don't know. It's Unto the Locust is 3 years ago. They're almost 2 years, year and a half, I guess, removed from the departure of co-founding member Adam Deuce.
Yeah.
But by all accounts, the new guy they have in, Jared McEachern, is pretty capable bass player. He can hit the vocal harmonies. And yeah, this track was pretty damn kick-ass. So
you'll see.
Very eagerly awaiting more from the Machine Head front. Gonna get into another one now that I just can't quite figure out, frankly. Winger.
Why do people like this band? Why do people like this band so much?
Why is Winger a thing?
I mean,
metal sucks. Our go-to source for all things metal, and that's not sarcasm at all. Metal sucks. You guys are doing a good thing. But they've been propping the hell out of this thing. It's not that good.
No, here's the thing. They are good musicians, and I can definitely see a catchiness to the music, but it's very generic sounding. It's very much, I get it. It's reasonable at best prog. I just don't care. I don't know why people do. To be honest with you, I listened to 3 tracks.
I think it's kind of weird. That a band that was in the hair metal scene in the 80s, a band that put out songs like 17, is doing prog stuff. I mean, it's like, it's pretty capable prog. I'll give them credit, but it's just like not really my thing.
No, me either.
I don't get it.
I don't get all the hype. I don't get all the attention. It's very blah. I don't know.
Yeah. A couple of the songs are just ridiculous. There's one of the songs is called Midnight Driver of a Love Machine.
That's one of the ones I listened to.
Which, okay, yeah. Tin Soldier is the proggier one. I'm just like, I don't really get it.
Nah.
Whenever I think of Winger, I still think of Stuart from Beavis and Butthead.
Yes.
The kid that they made fun of in his Winger shirt. And that's probably the only context in which I'll ever think of Winger.
Yep.
But, good on them for keeping on. Red Beach is still an incredible guitar player, as you alluded to. So, I guess man and winger can coexist peacefully.
That's
couple of other quick albums. What's that?
Sentence.
Yeah. A couple of other quick albums we want to make note of that we, for various reasons, have not had the opportunity to listen to. Eschaton is out with their new album Worship Death this week. I tried to listen to it. It's not on Spotify.
It's not anywhere.
I will try and find a way.
This is
What's that?
It's not anywhere. I was able to grab a few tracks. This is very much a blackened death band. Blackened.
It's too underground.
It's extremely underground. Raw production.
This is Hassan metal.
This is Hassan metal. They are like Christian seems like a mainstream pop band compared to these guys. I frankly think it's awesome. I like their sound. I don't know. I mean, they're from Australia, which is pretty cool. But it's very much Christian, early Behemoth. Like I said, Black and Death. It's straightforward. It's exactly what you're going to expect with a band of that subgenre. But it's pretty cool. Hopefully, eventually, I'll be able to listen to the whole thing through and through. I only got a snippet of a couple songs. But I mean, I guess if I can find time to sit through an hour of raw produced black and death metal, then
productive.
Here I am making those words up again.
Use your words, Corey.
I don't want to. But it sounded pretty cool. It sounded like if I'm really feeling evil next winter, maybe I'll, invest a little more time in it. But it seems interesting.
Yeah. I will. I'll give it a shot if I can find it somewhere. Yeah. Then I said there were various reasons I didn't listen to these next couple of albums. I mentioned that because the other album we want to cover is Sebastian Bach's new album, Give 'Em Hell. And the reason why I didn't listen to this one is just because I could not give less of a shit about Sebastian Bach.
This isn't really going over an album that came out. It's just letting you know an album came out because I didn't listen to it either. Because fuck him.
Yeah.
Honestly.
If you like Sebastian Bach, I question you as a metal fan.
Wrong podcast.
But hey, you have something to listen to this week. So
good for you.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You're a person too, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it looks like coming up next week we have a new one from Aborted.
Correct.
As well.
Correct. They have a single out. I listened to it. I mean, you can just stream it on YouTube. It's probably the easiest way to go about it. It sounds pretty cool. I'm not going to comment on it too much until I can give the whole album a listen through, but it sounds like there's potential there, and I'm kind of excited. I haven't listened to Aborted in a while, so I'll probably end up picking this one up. Next Tuesday, 4/29, new Aborted CD.
There we go. And we're also just 3 weeks out from
Agalloch. That's going to be a holiday in my life.
Serpent and the Sphere. That's going to be in the same way that we devoted a good 5 minutes to Melodic as Mod. I have a feeling we're going to be devoting some time to Serpent and the Sphere too.
God, yes.
Especially since we'll be seeing them at MDF just a couple of weeks after.
They're going to be. I'm going to see them a third and fourth time this year. Now you mention it, because obviously I saw them in New York City.
You saw them at Winter is Coming too.
I saw them at Winter is Coming. Obviously we'll be seeing at MDF, and they're going to be doing once through midsummer, and they'll be here July 1st. So I'll be catching them then as well. So they'll reach that magical number 4 in my book, right up there with the likes of Behemoth. Actually, that's pretty much it.
There you go.
So
anyway, that'll do it for our new releases of the week. Going to move into our subgenre of the week, which is one that's very near and dear to both of our hearts. We're gonna talk about melodic death metal this week.
I'm excited.
So many bands that we listen to fall into this category.
This is a subgenre that can be broken up into additional subgenres.
Yeah,
it's my favorite subgenre. Like, I could talk about melodic death metal for months. Just everything it covers, from a Monomarth, all the junk they do out in Finland, to the Gothenburg scene, which we'll get into, to Amorphis, crying out loud, which is nothing like either of those. So anyway, kick us off, Dan.
Melodic death metal, for those who may not be in the know, which I'm amazed that you've gotten this far in the podcast if you're not really in the know. Credit to you. Melodic death metal came into being in the mid-90s. It combines elements of the classic new wave of British heavy metal, the melodic side of that, from bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, stuff like that, with a more aggressive death metal style. It was developed in Sweden in the early to mid 90s, specifically, as Corey mentioned, in Gothenburg. Yeah. Bands coming out of the Gothenburg scene, you're talking In Flames, you're talking Dark Tranquillity, At the Gates. I mean, just the legends of this particular subgenre. Although, interestingly enough, one of the bands that's most credited with the rise of melodic death is Carcass, who is not from Sweden, but in fact from Liverpool, England. Yep. Their album, Heartwork, seminal album, Heartwork, from 1993, basically set the stage for that kind of sonic fusion that we would see coming out of Sweden.
Right.
And it's since, I mean, they were going on, it's almost 20 years since the first rise of melodic death metal. And in that time, it's gone off and merged with a number of different genres, just fusing with stuff like power metal. You see bands like Children of Bodom, Winter Sun. There's stuff that merges with thrash metal, like Arch Enemy. You name it. Yeah. It's branched off into myriad of new directions, most of which are still pretty kick-ass.
I would love to one day make a Venn diagram of all the subgenres and how they overlap, because you think of like Bodom and Winter Sun, then you can start talking, the folk metal scene, all the other stuff. So it's just really fascinating how everything eventually blends. But
it'd be like I feel like it'd be like the. I'm going to totally nerd out right now. Did you ever play Final Fantasy X?
Nope. Well, please enlighten me, because now I'm curious.
Final Fantasy X was an underrated, I will say, it was an underrated installment in the Final Fantasy series. But the leveling up system in Final Fantasy X used something called the Sphere Grid, which you basically earned points. It was this complicated network of spheres and abilities that you could connect yourself to. You basically started at a point, and you had to earn enough sphere points to move to different ability spheres and stuff. And it was this giant spider web of craziness, which is part of the reason why I never really got past the early stages of the game, because I just didn't want to do that shit.
Right.
But at any rate, trying to network the melodic death metal lineage is kind of strikes me as something like that.
Yeah,
like trying to level up a sphere grid.
It'd be near impossible. But again, it's easily my favorite subgenre of metal. I mean, it just covers everything. I mean, you go through my library of music, and it's got to make up at least 75% of my music. It's obscene. So yeah, I'm excited about what we're gonna cover here. I mean, everything In Flames, Dark Tranquillity, At the Gates. Like, these are all just legends to me. So yeah, I don't know. Let's should we go over some playlists?
Yeah. We put together. We each picked 5 songs, our 5 choice songs from the melodic death metal genre, and together we think this should give you a nice little sampler of the subgenre. Corey, you want to run me through yours real quick?
Sure, why not? So to kick things off, I think definitely my favorite album by this band. I'm going with In Flames off of the Horrible album, which came out in 1997. Worlds Within the Margins. This is
great track.
It's an awesome track. This is very early In Flames. We're not talking a sense of purpose here. This is the really old school stuff. I don't know. I don't really know what to say about this album. It's awesome. Worlds Within the Margins. It covers a little bit of everything. Definitely brings in a lot of different elements. Very melodic. It's my favorite song on my favorite album by this band. One of my favorite bands. So it's kind of a no-brainer.
Widely considered one of, if not the best, In Flames albums.
Yeah.
I
mean,
yeah.
Just a Race is right up there, and so it's like Colony and stuff. But it's right there.
Yep. I
just realized how far back all these tracks I picked go. I don't think I have anything from the 2000s. Anyway, my second song is At the Gates, Under a Serpent's Sun, off of Slaughter of the Soul, which actually I just picked up this album this past weekend for Record Store Day at Bull Moose. It was one too I picked up. Yep, picked up Under a Serpent's Sun, and also picked up Great Cold Distance by Catatonia, again of the melodic death metal variety. Slaughter of the Soul came out in 1995. This is again, my favorite song off the album Under Serpent's Sun. It's the fourth song on the track. It's short, sweet, to the point. 3.5 minutes, as all the songs are on this album. I'm just happy this band's getting back together, which we'll get into later. So I had to grab them from out the gate just because of how they built the genre up.
Yep,
for sure. Moving on, Hypocrisy's Roswell 47.
Of course, there's a Hypocrisy track.
Why wouldn't there be?
How could there not be a Hypocrisy track on here in a Corey Butterworth playlist?
Meanwhile, as they fillet to melodic death metal in the corner. Yeah, this goes back. The Roswell 47 was off of Abducted, which came out in 1996. This is a very, very ominous, very slow, very deliberate death metal song. It grinds life to a halt, and it's punishing and it's awesome, and it's a minute and a half of just slow riffage before working into again, very deliberate, very, very cold lyrics. It's cool. It's about aliens, like all Hypocrisy songs are. Dig it. Moving on to Dark Tranquillity. This is the most recent song I have on here. It's off of Haven, which came out in 2000. Not Built to Last. Honestly, just again another one of the classics in the genre. I just had to pick something from Dark Tranquillity. This is a song I feel is fairly overrated. Everybody's heard, Lost to Apathy, Wonders at Your Feet, that kind of stuff. This is a song that grew on me with time. I had to throw it on there. So that's that.
Yeah.
And then finally,
interesting that you went with one from Haven over the Gallery. Not criticizing it.
Yeah.
I just feel like everyone talks up the Gallery as like their best album.
For sure.
It's nice to.
For sure.
Nice to see a different angle to it.
Yeah, no, Gallery is, I'm sure, I wouldn't argue that it's their best album, but I don't know. It's Haven itself, start to finish, I don't think is that consistent of an album. It's got its high and low points, but I just think the way Not Built to Last builds is just really, really, really cool. I don't know. It's just, if I had to go to the Dark Tranquillity song, it's the one that I would want to represent them. And then finally, going to some old school Bodom, before the crap that was Relentless.
Another alumnus of the dipshit bracket.
Right, exactly. Lake Bodom off Something Wild. Something Wild's, 97. Lake Bodom's, it's got a crazy intro, rocking that guitar.
Alexi's balls probably hadn't even dropped yet.
Probably not. Getting close.
This is 17 years ago.
Know. That's weird. I just saw him play this live. It's a great song. If I was going to go with something Bodom, it had to be old school, and I didn't feel like, covering Fall the Reaper like everybody else does. So, Lake Bodom, Something Wild, Children Bodom. Worth a check out.
Good stuff.
Yep.
My list, covering a lot more from the same scene. I'm going to start off with, to this day, one of my favorite metal tracks, Arch Enemy's We Will Rise from the Anthems of Rebellion album.
Yep.
This thing is just pummeling. Stunning vocal performance as always from Angela Gossow. Really, really great guitar work from Michael Ammett. Just an all around great song and from a great album.
Right.
Coming up after that, I picked Dissection's Where Dead Angels Lie from the Storm of the Lights Bane album. Mm-hmm. Dissection, of course, who frontman John Notveit was sentenced to prison time for murdering a homosexual in the mid-90s.
Right.
And then came out and committed suicide.
Right.
Fun stuff. He put out one album after being released from prison and then killed himself. Not an album that... Or I should say, not a band that I'm a fan of lifically, but certainly one I'm a fan of musically.
Right.
This is some really good melodic death metal stuff going on here. Again, Dissection, Where Dead Angels Lie. After that, Soilwork, Machine Gun Majesty from the Chainheart Machine album. Soilwork has gone into lately. I don't want to say an alternative metal sound, but certainly a more mainstream sounding sound
no question.
than they started off with. This is the Chainheart Machine is their second album, and they are full on melodic death. This is just a ferocious track.
I really do like Will's early soil work. It is good stuff, but it's interesting how their sound evolved over the years, kind of like how In Flames has. I mean, different directions, obviously, but same kind of time frame. It's fascinating. Yeah.
And it's definitely it's been funny because they've had peaks and valleys in the same way that In Flames has as well. Right. Anyway, again, Machine Gun Majesty was my selection from the Chain Heart Machine album, Soilwork. Good stuff. After that, we have The Haunted's Hollow Ground. Amazingly, I know it's hard to believe, The Haunted used to be known for something other than their singers like pissy rants on Twitter and blabbermouth about metal fans. Hollow Ground is a great track from their second album, The Haunted Made Me Do It. And it's an ass kicker. I mean, there's not much more to say. Perhaps not coincidentally, Peter Dolving, the vocalist who is prone to those pissy rants, was not in the band at the time. So maybe that's why it's more tolerable.
Right, exactly.
And then finally for my fifth song, I went with a band we both love, a band I've seen, a band that is the source of endless entertainment for us. Death Clock. Again, not a real band, I know, but Death Clock, I went with Rejoin from Death Album 3, which might be my favorite Death Clock song, period. It's it opens the first episode of the fourth season of Metalocalypse, and it's just it's a punisher, man. It's a really great track. Closes out Death Album 3, just fantastic all around. Death Clock, Rejoin. That's my playlist.
Nice. It's I've quick commentary on this. I found it interesting how last week when we covered doom metal, your playlist was more of the traditional, the more quintessential songs and artists of the doom metal genre, and then this week is almost. I'm not gonna say
it's
completely reverse, but it's quite a reverse. I have some of the old school stuff from the mid to late '90s out of Sweden,
and I'm putting more contemporary stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The Death Clocks and the Haunted and stuff, which is interesting.
It's funny how it works out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at any rate, continuing the melodic death metal conversation. Moving into your retrospective section, you have a melodic death metal album that you want to talk about this week. Do you know?
I do indeed, and I actually just mentioned it in my playlist. I'm going with At the Gates, Slaughter of the Soul, as I mentioned. I just picked up this past weekend for Record Store Day. Came out in 1995. No wonder it was so freaking hard for me to find it. It's almost 20 years old.
Slaughter of the Soul is in college. That's weird.
God, that's so weird to me.
I don't know how I feel about that.
It's like a sophomore too. It's living in, where do we live sophomore year? Del Plain. Anywho, digression over. There's 17 songs on this album, but it's only 53 minutes, which tells you one thing: these songs are short and to the point, and they kick your ass, and it's awesome. They do have a couple short instrumentals in there, which are nice. It kind of breaks it up at the right intervals. But if you want to talk about Gothenburg style. Swedish melodic death metal. This is it. I mean,
you can't get much more Gothenburg than that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Especially when this thing came out. I mean, this is the quintessential At the Gates album. They had some stuff come out that was definitely grittier and, some would say heavier, obviously less melodic, that preceded this album. But this is it.
The Sky Is Ours.
Yeah, exactly. But this is it.
Stuff like that.
They broke up after this album. Actually, I think it was the bassist and the guitarist helped one with the Haunted, with the drummer actually, which was in 1996 that they broke up. But these guys are back. They're gonna have an album coming out, or so we've been led to believe. 2014, no release date or anything like that I'm aware of. But they will be at Maryland Death Fest, so they're moving again. That makes me really, really excited. At the Gates, Slaughter of the Soul, classic, man, just classic.
Yeah. Yeah, I could not be more pumped to see them in about a month.
Yeah, it's getting close, man. It's getting close.
So, at any rate, my retrospective is actually, it's funny. Your retrospective album was inspired by this week's subgenre of the week. Mine is inspired by last week's subgenre of the week, of course, doom metal. You mentioned I got into more of a classic doom metal feel, and of course I had to cover Black Sabbath in coming up with our playlist last week. And in putting that together, I realized that Black Sabbath's catalog is finally on Spotify. Not the individual albums, but the studio box set that they just put out recently, complete Ozzy era, 1970 to 78. That has been uploaded on Spotify, and so of course gravitated towards that. And I'm going with Paranoid. I've been listening to that a lot the past week, just in celebration of Black Sabbath being on Spotify.
Yes.
And I wouldn't even say that Paranoid is my favorite Sabbath album, but if you're going to go on a Sabbath binge, you might as well listen to Paranoid.
Absolutely.
It is their seminal album. It's widely acknowledged as most people's favorite metal albums, favorite Sabbath albums ever made. It's just, it's a classic. I mean, you start off, you have that 7.5 minute ominous motherfucker, War Pigs.
7.5, dude. Almost
into
it's just short of 8.
What's that?
It's just short of 8 minutes. I think it's like 7:50 something. It's long.
Yeah. You go from that into Paranoid, into Planet Caravan, into Iron Man. It's all killer, no filler. I mean, really,
Yep.
I just referenced a Sum 41 album. Didn't
Wow, where did that come from?
I kind of.
Oh man, that was unexpected.
I think, to be fair, I think that phrase was around before Sum 41 became a thing. But
Of course they were. They
still
couldn't.
hate
They
myself.
couldn't think of anything like that on their own. You kidding me?
True. I still kind of hate myself a little bit.
Yeah.
But at any rate, yeah, like I said, it's not my favorite Sabbath album. I think that honor has to go to Master of Reality.
Mhm.
But when you think of Sabbath, it's hard not to think of Paranoid. And it's an immensely important album. And I've just been spinning it like crazy this week. So
When did that come out? Like,
Black Sabbath, Paranoid, that is my retrospective.
when did that come out? 70?
71. Well, actually, it was September 1970 in the UK and Europe,
Okay.
and January 1st, 71 in the US.
Pushing 45 years.
Yeah,
Jesus.
dude. That's weird to
Fucking
think
me.
about.
I know. Anyway,
At any rate, that has been the retrospective segment. So let's move into our final segment, our favorite, Horns Up, Horns Down. Again, this is where we go over stuff we've been enjoying the past week and stuff we have been less than enjoying over the past week.
Yep.
Starting off with Horns Up, Corey, you have an interesting one this week.
Yep. My horns up is it's artsy, which is shocking.
That's one way to
Right.
put it.
Mine is a statue of Lucifer in England. At the Holy Trinity Church in Marylebone, Westminster, London. Yeah, okay. This is just the creepiest son of a bitch statue of Lucifer I've ever seen in my life. The way from where it's located in the church, the sun really comes through the stained glass onto the sculpture of Lucifer. Lucifer, by the way, the sculpture of which is suspended, wrapped in electric wire, or what, it appears to be electric wire.
Yeah.
He's got this oily figure, all skin and bones, just really creepy.
And it's right on the altar too, which is
Exactly.
just adds to the effect.
Exactly.
He's on the spot where the priest, if the church was still functioning as a church, where the priest would be giving a sermon.
Yep. And that's what
no big deal. There's this giant statue of Lucifer.
yeah, just because of religion and stuff. No, this thing was really I don't know entirely what the message was for this piece, what exactly he was trying to portray. I find it really unique how, again, the electric wires, our source of power is what's both trapping yet suspending the statue. I think it's really cool. Basically, I'm just trying to make all of you assholes take a look at this thing 'cause it's awesome. And also
the artist's name is Paul Fryer. He's based in London, and he's got some pretty interesting stuff. I wouldn't say it's all quite as gnarly as this, but he's covering a bunch of different media. Really interesting guy. And this church, interestingly enough, has basically sat empty for almost 80 years, more than 80 years, in fact. And Fryer just took it and, gave it some life again.
Yeah, why not? Best way to give church some life is to throw a giant statue of Lucifer in the middle of it. Perfect.
Well, see, and here's the thing. I don't even know if that would be the weirdest thing they've had there. I was reading on it. Apparently in 2008, they hosted an art exhibition that featured a crucified ape as its centerpiece.
Okay, that's weirder. That's weirder because
I don't know if Paul Fryer was behind that, but Holy Trinity is that's getting avant-garde with its exhibitionism.
That's worth a visit for me. So yeah, that's short, sweet, to the point. Go check out the statue of Lucifer. Because Satan. Anyway, Dan, I believe you have a piece that's actually got something to do with a good friend of ours that we've introduced to the masses before.
Our good friend and co-host emeritus, Kevin Davis, who you may remember from our previous podcast, The Bracket. Yes, Kevin's production company, Visibly Shaken, has come out with a new web series called The Shades. It's a satire that looks at religious extremes in a new light. Their first episode premiered on Easter Sunday, and it was actually really funny. It showed us an alternate holiday called Eostre, which celebrates love and fertility with eggs filled with seed and a scantily clad bunny rabbit. And by seed, I don't mean sunflowers. I mean the type that you have to put a blindfold on yourself and suck out of a long pipe without asking questions.
Cocky tears.
I'm talking about the type that Nick Manning drops loads of on unsuspecting teenage girls.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, Nick Manning had to be dropped eventually.
Yes, we couldn't have a podcast and not mention Nick Manning. Needless to say, episode 1, Eostre, was a riot. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Mama Kaplan enjoyed the hell out of it. Hilarity ensues. Again, it's called The Shades. We can only hope that there will be more episodes in the future. Again, just YouTube, Visibly Shaken Productions, or you can search for The Shades. Funny stuff. Kevin, you done good. So get back on this podcast soon.
Yep.
At any rate, now horns down. A topic for Corey that we've already alluded to in the past, but let's go a little bit deeper, shall we?
I would love to, Dan. I would love to. All right, so this has pretty much been most of the show for me at this point. Deathcore fans, you get my horns down for this week, but
not deathcore music, deathcore fans.
But where exactly? Fans specifically here. But where do I begin though? I mean, we could start with the genre of music itself, because we all understand why I hate that. The flat screams, the excessive blast beats, the same fucking breakdowns over and over and over again, the piss poor angsty lyrical content, just the lack of anything. But then you get into the culture, the lyrical side of deathcore. What the hell is wrong with this fan base? I mean, we're talking gauges in their ears that I can throw quarters through. I mean, forget quarters with beer. Just freaking throw one of these kids' heads on a table. Play quarters that way. Basketball jerseys? Really? The angst? What?
I think the level of disrespect I have for deathcore fans is of a similar level to the level of disrespect I have for like Justin Bieber fans.
Yeah, it's so true. I think
they're all kind of just brainless fools.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing because I've always said, and I mentioned it earlier in the show, that one of the reasons I've always found so much enjoyment in going to metal shows, even if I don't even really know who the headlining act is all that much, is because of the camaraderie there. Everybody loves heavy music. Everybody's there to enjoy listening to heavy music and seeing heavy music being performed in front of them. But these fans are fucking dicks. Like, actually. They're
I'll let you finish. Suffice it to say, I know your frustration.
Yeah, no, and
lots of bros.
Bros. Again, angsty, like, they've got this chip on the shoulder to people that are trying to enjoy the exact same thing they are, which makes absolutely no sense to me. It's like, God, I don't know.
These are like Zeta males that are trying to be alpha males.
Right. Exactly. And the worst thing is,
guys have never been the leader of any wolf pack in their lives, and now they're trying to be the assertive dominant type.
And they have no semblance of any kind of musical intelligence or really any intellectual ability. Not that you necessarily need that to enjoy music. Obviously, you see some stupid people at concerts, it's just the way it goes. But it's just to not know the fundamental roots of what you're listening to, or even respect what built your genre. Just pisses me off. Like I mentioned, how a good solid 25 to 30% of the crowd left after Whitechapel before Behemoth even took the stage. Nobody even knew who the fuck they were. And I'm just astonished. I am just astonished by this because Behemoth has been doing their thing since the early 90s. They're Black and Death. They, like I mentioned to you earlier, Dan, they didn't even belong in the set list. They really didn't. They were just so far in left field compared to the rest of these bands. But legends are legends. Like, I turned to two guys that probably had to have about 3 years on me. And it was right before Behemoth took the stage. I was right there at the front, and they were kind of like, what should we do? Should we stay? Should we leave? I mean, I don't really know who these guys are. They're like, oh, we can stay for a song. And Behemoth came on. They played Blow Your Trumpets, Gabriel, which I thought, this song is considered one of the best metal songs to come out this year so far. By pretty much every source of media there is. Like, one of the best metal songs from one of the best albums to come out in 2014. They had never heard it. Yeah. They had no idea what was going on. They're like, wow, these guys are awesome. But I want to get back to the hotel and start drinking. I'm just like, you know what? Leave. Fuck you guys. Go home and listen to Amir. Go watch. By the way, I hope everybody has seen this at this point. Frankie Palmieri getting electrocuted on stage. Yeah, have you seen this?
I have not.
You need to see this. Frankie Palmieri. Got electrocuted on.
What's the context? Was this like an intentional?
No, it was by his microphone. He was like mid lyric, and he just goes numb and falls over backwards.
I need to check.
You
this
really
out.
do. I don't know. These are just these fans are just, they piss me off. They're ruining the fucking metal scene for me at these shows. They completely ruin the camaraderie. They completely ruin the whole culture that I feel the metal community has for itself, just by their sheer angst and just flat out bitchiness. I don't know. You had some points to make. I'm gonna let you go now.
I had some points to make, but I'm not sure I could articulate them with as much venom. I will respectfully abstain at this point. I mean, you've taken the cake of anti-deathcore sentiment for this evening. However, I do have some choice words on my horns down of the week.
Yes.
Which is gas. Gas. And I'm not talking about the type you put in your car.
That sucks too, though.
I'm talking about the type you get after a hard night at Chipotle and garlic. I'm talking about the type you get on a treadmill when there's a hot girl next to you because the universe just wants to fuck with you. I'm talking about the type that makes you feel all bloated and gross and basically incapacitates you at its worst, which it did for me last night. My dad was in town. He and my roommate and I went out to dinner. We had a nice meal. And then all of a sudden I'm stricken, like I wasn't overly full. And then all of a sudden I'm stricken with a gas attack. And I start to feel all kinds of bloated, and I stand up to try and walk back to the subway, and I'm just like, can you guys roll me? It was just all kinds of bad. But I have to say, as much as I do hate gas, and as much as it strikes at awkward moments, I will say that it also brings with it a certain type of satisfaction. There is no feeling in the world like releasing.
Absolutely not. This is the best thing ever.
Both in terms of the feeling, the physical feeling you get, and the satisfaction of other people turning their heads, assuming they're people you don't know. If it's people you do know, then it can be kind of embarrassing. But random strangers, oh God, I love farting in front of random strangers. It's one of my favorite activities.
I want no people near me right now. So here's this.
I swear to God, at my worst, I create bringing up the gym. At my worst, if I get joggers farts, I create like a solid 2 treadmill radius of emptiness around me. Which is great. I mean, I'll take it, like I don't want people cramping my style. I'm trying to run here.
Treadmills, the electrons of Dan's nucleus.
But at any rate, that's my horns down. Even though there are some things that I would put my horns back up for about it, horns down is gas. Yeah, this was a topic very near and dear to my heart this week.
Oh, man.
At any rate, that'll do it for episode 3 of Horns Up. We'll be back with you the same time next week. Until then, Corey, have any final parting words?
I think I pretty much spent it on that last topic. I'm good.
I think you have covered your topic with as much as you can. I have nothing more to say than our unofficial slogan for Horns Up: live, love, plow, horns up. For Corey Butterworth, I am Dan Kaplan. This has been episode 3 of our podcast. Check back same time next week, and we'll be back with you for more metal. Talk to you then.